US President Donald Trump says he has ordered 2 nuclear submarines to be positioned to, quote, appropriate regions closer to Russia. The US President said the order was given in response to what he called highly provocative comments made by Russia's former President Dmitry Medvedev. Trump has increasingly been signalling frustration with Moscow, giving the Kremlin until next weekend to halt its war in Ukraine or face consequences.
This is a US Navy Ohio-class ballistic missile submarine, also known as a boomer. It can carry up to 20 nuclear-armed intercontinental missiles, each capable of carrying multiple nuclear warheads over thousands of kilometers. Aside from ballistic missile submarines, the US Navy also operates cruise missile submarines and attack submarines, all of which are powered by a nuclear reactor. US President Donald Trump did not specify which atomic submarines he would be moving closer to Russia, following online sparring between him and former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev.
Well, you just have to read what he said. He was talking about nuclear. When you talk about nuclear, we have to be prepared, and we're totally prepared. A threat was made by a former president of Russia, and we're going to protect our people.
Over the past days, Trump and Medvedev had exchanged blows over social media. Medvedev had frequently wielded nuclear threats and lobbed insults at Western leaders since the start of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Some analysts say Medvedev is seeking to win favor with Putin and Russian military hawks. Trump's public redeployment of nuclear submarines comes at a delicate time in US and Russian relations. Washington is trying to push Moscow to agree to a ceasefire in its war with Ukraine and has threatened new economic sanctions if no progress is made. A 10-day deadline to reach a ceasefire deal is set to expire next week.
All right, let's get some analysis now. And for that, Mark Cancian is joining us. He is a senior advisor at the Centre for Strategic and International Studies. Great to have you on DW News. So, Mark, what's your take on Trump's deployment order? Is this a power move directly related to his deadline to end the war in Ukraine?
I think it had 2 reasons. The first is related to negotiating an end to the war in Ukraine. Trump has been very annoyed at the Russians for their unwillingness to negotiate seriously. He authorized NATO, Europe, to buy U.S. weapons and send them to Ukraine. And I think this was one aspect of that annoyance. But it also reflects a reaction to Russian saber rattling, particularly nuclear saber rattling. The Russians have been doing that since the beginning of the war, and Trump was showing his lack of patience with that, unlike the Biden administration. Trump is reacting to it, and I think he's intending to send the message that this should stop.
All right, but we're talking here about nuclear submarines, which for many of us, it causes a lot of fear. Are you concerned this will escalate militarily?
No. I understand that when people talk about nuclear submarines, that raises concerns. But keep in mind, the United States has a dozen submarines at sea at any time. This was almost certainly a repositioning of 2 submarines that were already at sea. There have been no reports of additional submarines sailing. They're likely attack submarines, which are designed to take on enemy submarines or surface ships. They're nuclear powered, but they don't carry nuclear weapons. The United States does have ballistic missile submarines, but those can reach Russia from virtually anywhere, even in port. So they don't need to move forward to cause a threat to Russia. They can do that from wherever they are in the world.
Now, Mark, you mentioned the negotiations before. I want to talk about that now a little bit because Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, is about to travel to Moscow. And considering what we're seeing now, could this all make his job there quite difficult and lead to a complete breakdown in talks? Or do you see it going perhaps in a different direction?
I think that President Trump intends that this will strengthen Witkoff's hand. That is, by showing that the United States is losing patience with Russia, combined with the deal that the United States made with NATO, and that if Russia continues to refuse negotiations, then the pressure will increase.
Great to have your insights, Mark. We're going to have to leave it there, though. Mark Cancian, Senior Advisor at the Centre for Strategic and International Studies. Thanks for joining us on DW News.
Thanks for having me on the show.